Guys, so welcome back to our tutorials. So in today's tutorial we're going to create this card you can see here on top. So and the beauty about this card is that it has some unique design. So if you look at this learn more, you can see there is some nice design going on here. So let me see whether I can zoom. Yeah, like that. So you can see there's some new nice designs that we have going on here. So we are going to just create these using HTML and CSS. So stay tuned so that at the end we are going to create this section. So to get started, just open a blank HTML template, add some default templates. The way you add the default is that you use exclamation mark and you press enter. This is called emmet, the one that fills the boilerplate. And then in the CSS we have nothing. So let's get started. So the very first thing I want to do is to add icons. You can see we have several icons, 1, 2. So all these icons we are going to use font awesome. So as I have showed you is that you can go to cdnjs.com and then look for font awesome, copy the link tag and come and paste it on the head tag. That one will load the font awesome CSS, and then you can close that. The next thing is that we go to Google Fonts. The font we are going to use is called Roboto. So as I've showed you countless time, if you want a font in Google Fonts, go ahead and just search for it. But in my case, this is visible here. This is the Roboto. You just click it. And then after clicking it, you see a button that says get font. So you just click get font and then get embed code. And then the import, then you can copy this to the CSS. But you could still add this to the HTML. But I want to add it in the CSS. All right, so copy that. Go to the CSS file and paste that in. All right, so we are done with the fonts. And then here's where we are going to use those fonts. This is the font awesome. This is fontawesome.com. We are going to search the icons there. All right, so the next thing is let's link the CSS. So we can say link our current CSS file, which is style.css, with our document. Right, so that's it. Then let's start creating the card. So I'm going to give it a class of card. So you can just say .card. And then what I'm thinking of is that this is an image wrapper with the image and all these add-ons. You can see even this is inside. So I'm going to create an image wrapper div, which will hold the image itself. So if you want this exact image, you can go to my GitHub repository /TechWithTwin /TikTok projects, look for package, it's called package. Let me see. Package card. So look for, I think it's in a new branch. So let's see. No. I think the naming. So package card. So the exact image should be here for some reason. So you can go here and look for the package card project, or else go ahead and look for an image that corresponds to this image. So in my case, I'm just going to drag this image. So drag this image. So by the time you are watching this tutorial, I will have checked why that package card is not present here in my GitHub repository. Or maybe it's because I have not pushed the changes. So let me see. So let me commit these changes. So all right, so I have just pushed the new changes. So if we refresh, we can see the package card will be shown. So let's look for it. So view all files. want to see the code, not the commits. So view all files, the package card, here it is. So you click on the package card, you'll find that thumbnail that I have used exactly here. Right, so let's switch gears and continue to our project. So we have that thumbnail, we are just going to add it here. So it's thumb.jpg. Not going to add an alt right now, but you could add an alt if this is a live website. The next thing, so inside the image wrapper, I'm going to add this second div. This div, you can see the black. This one will be displayed absolute to the image wrapper. So how I can do this is now I'm going to say dot overlay. I'm just going to call it overlay. Inside the overlay, we have a paragraph that says Paris, and then you can see this is the same thing I'm writing here. And then the other side is a div. And this div has a tag icon. So you go to Font Awesome, search for tag, and then you can see a free tag here. So you just copy the free tag. So click here to copy the tag. And this will show because we imported the CDN for Font Awesome here. And then if we go back, then after the icon, so after the icon, we have another paragraph that says $8,600. That's it. And then finally, we have this tag. So this one, I'm calling it a tag. It should also be inside the image wrapper. So it will be dot tag. We create as a div. And then inside the dot tag, I'm going to create a paragraph that says learn more. Just like that. And we are done with that section. And then after the image wrapper, we have the title. So we can create a div with a class of title. This is the title that will hold this icon and the date. So we can go here to Font Awesome, look for a clock. We just come here and search clock. The clock is showing here. Click. You see the clock. Make sure you copy the link. Just click here inside. It will copy for you. All right. And then if we go back, after the icon, we have now a heading that says 20th October 2025 to 20th November 2025. And that's it. So if I go live with this new one, you see what we get, but we are going to fix this using CSS. So in CSS, the very first thing we always do is to add the default CSS style. So a margin of 0, a padding of 0, and a box sizing of border box. I've talked about this countless times, so I hope you were attentive. Then let's grab the body. Let's add the font family. The font family should be Roboto, and then sans serif. So where is this Roboto coming from? This is the font we have just imported here. So the family is called Roboto. This is what we add. All right, so let's also add some paddings to the body, padding to rem. The padding we are adding is to make sure that not everything is too close to the edges. All right. Yes, so, and then you want to place this thing to the center so we can display flex, and then justify content center. Then we are still moving. The next thing, let's grab the card. So we give it a class of card, so we can just start styling it. First, let's give it a width of 400 pixels. All right. And then we want to display it flex as well. Justify content. No. Flex direction of column. And then let's add a gap of maybe 0.5 rem. All right. So that there's no too much change. The next thing, let's grab the title. So the title, as you can see now, the title is this that has the clock and the text. So we can say dot title display flex as well. We want the clock and the title to be side by side, and then you can see it. And then align items to the center. Right. And then we justify the content to the center. All right. And then let's change the color of it. So we can say color, maybe gray. All right. And then let's add some gaps and say gap 0.3. All right. So the gap between the clock and the text. All right. So let's also grab this heading. So this one is inside the title, the heading. So dot title class, and then we grab the heading level 3. So we can just say dot title h3, and then we can reduce the font size to maybe 0.8 rem. All right. And then font weight, let's make it 600. All right. So I think that looks nice. The next thing, let's grab the overlay. The overlay is inside the image wrapper. So we need to give the image wrapper a position of relative. So we can say dot image wrapper position of relative. So whenever you give an element a position of relative, anything its child, we give it a position of absolute, it will be displayed absolute to the parent. So now we get the overlay and say display, no, position dot overlay, and then we say position, and then we want absolute. And then you can see now it is trying to fit in. All right. Then the image wrapper, let's give it a fixed height. So I want to give it a height of something like 15 rem. All right. And then we can grab the image dot image wrapper image. The image should fill the whole width. So we can say width 100%, and then a height of 100% as well. All right. And then an object fit cover. So the object fit says, what if the image does not fill the space that you have allocated? What should we do? Then we should give it they should fill everywhere, and then stretch itself to fit the aspect ratio. So the overlay, we have given it some position absolute. Then we need to specify where should it start. Should start at bottom 5%. Then you can see it moves inside. The learn more also. So we gave it a class of tag, position of absolute. And then if we give it, so we give it a class of tag. This is the learn more, and this is the overlay. They are supposed to be displayed inside the image wrapper. So the tag also, top, we want it to be 5%. And then you can see it moves here. Then we need it to be in this edge. So we can say right 0. Then you can see it moves at that edge. Let's give it a background color of blue. You can see it. Then a color of white. All right. So, and then let's do some padding. So we can do a padding of maybe 0.4 rem. I think we are done. And then we need to move it outside of the card itself. So we can, instead of saying write 0, we will say write something like 8 negative 8 pixels. Then you can see it moves a little bit to the edge. That's very nice. So let's focus on the overlay. So on the overlay, what we are supposed to do now is to give it a background color. So let's do a background color of RGBA 0000.85. So the opacity should be something like 0.85. And then let's change the color to white. All right, you can now see it. Let's display it flex. So we can say display flex. All right. And then inside the overlay, we have a div that should also be displayed flex. So this one should be displayed side by side. This corresponds to this tag and this text. So we can just do dot overlay, and then the direct child div display flex as well. Align items to the center, and a gap of maybe 0.2 rem. You can see it. The next thing is to make sure this is fills around 80% of the width. So we can give it a width of 80%. And then now we give it some paddings. So I think we should do a padding of maybe 0.5, 0.6 rem. That looks nice. So the next thing we need to do is to justify the content space between. Now we want this to be in the middle, but we are using position. So using position, we cannot say that margin because there's no concept of margins. So what we can do is that we give it a width of 80%. So that means we want to leave 20%, 10% on this end and 10% of this end. How can we do it? We just say bottom is 5%, then left should be 10%. And if you do left 10%, that means it will be pushed 10%. But that means it will push 10% here, then 80% of the width, that is 90, and then the remaining is 10%. And then that makes it to be in the middle. All right. Yeah, so that looks a bit nice, and that means this one is finished. So the only thing left is to add that stuff I showed you that is protruding here on the end. Also, we need to change the text here, so we can grab the text. The text is inside the overlay, then the direct child text. So we can say, no, it's inside the div. So the overlay, we want the div and then this text. So we can just do dot overlay, and then we grab the div, and then in the div we grab the paragraph, and then we change the color to RGB 88, and then 245. Text is changed. I think that looks, let's make it a bit white. There. Still, it is not visible as we would like. I think we can remain with that. So finally, we just want to add that stuff here. And how are we going to add that stuff? We are going to style the pseudo element of this element. So the element is called tag. So we need to start styling the pseudo element. We could use the pseudo element, or we could create an extra div, but the pseudo elements came to solve that issue whereby we don't have to create new divs just to add some styles. And when working pseudo elements, the first thing is the content. You put empty content because you could now add an emoji here in case you wanted the end to be something like an emoji. And then position here should be absolute. And then I want it to be in the bottom. So also we need to give it a width. So how I'm trying to work around this is because the tag has a right of 8 pixels. That means it is pushed to the right 8 pixels. So we need either 8 pixels or more on the width so that it can fill this space and then it can go beneath. Like in the finished version, you can see there's something that protrudes and it goes beneath. So what I'm going to do now, this one can have a width of greater than or equal to negative 8 pixels. So we can say a width, I'm going to use 10 pixels so that I can have some room to work with. And then the height should be still 10 pixels. So just for visuals, let's add color of red. So you can see that protruding thing we want to add, and then we want to place it at right 0. All right, and then a bottom. So here in the bottom as well. So let me first make sure the bottom is 0. So a bottom of 0, you can see where that box shows. So we need to push it down its height. We can use transform, but we can still push it down using its height so that it can start here. So we push it bottom negative 10 pixels, which is its height. We could use translations, but now you can see how it shows. And something you might realize is that since its width is 8 pixels, its width is 10 pixels, and the protruding of this element is 8 pixels, so it shows slightly above. I don't know whether I can zoom. So it shows slightly on top of the image. That means we can give it a z index. So we can say z index of -1. So it looks as if it goes beneath the image wrapper and it looks nice. So the next challenge is how can we make sure it is cut? We need a triangle-like shape. So we need to cut it in the diagonal. So we need to cut the diagonal and show it. So how can we do this? So to achieve this in CSS, we use something called a clip path. Luckily, we have a website called bennettflile.com clippy, which helps us to visualize clipping elements. So in this scenario, so you can see I can clip this. So this is our background. So how can we clip it? We can clip it like this. So let's copy the clip path. So I think you can see. So let me copy this clip path and paste it and see how this element will be clipped. So we save. So control save. You can see how it is clipped, and it is clipped based on the clip path. But in my case, I want to clip it this way. So you can just copy now. Now it is clipped as if we want it. So the only thing left is to change the color, and then we can use something like blue. So that looks nice. But now, whenever we have something going beneath the other element, it should be darker because it's like some shadows. So we can just hover over here and go to a darker blue. So that one is not yet quite dark, and then we can go. All right, so it's now looking very nice, very dark, and that's it, guys. That's how you can create such a travel card. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, follow, and share with your friends. Thank you.